Activision, Blizzard, King. You guys know I don't like talking about this. It's one of those scenarios where we keep talking about it over and over again, and I get really exhausted by talking about it. I only really go over it when it's big news, stuff that is actually going to push the entire case forward. I don't really go over too many rumors. There was rumors that the EU was going to approve it last week, and I did go over that because that is a big entity, just like the CMA and the FTC. These are companies that pretty much at every continent or every country, they go over whether or not a acquisition would affect the competition in that immediate area. Well, the CMA blocked it, as we saw, and the FTC, it looks like that's in the middle. It could go either way. But we've been waiting for the Europe one. The Europe Commission has finally approved the acquisition. So what does that mean? That means the EU is on board. Now, I think this is one of the biggest things that needed to happen for Microsoft to actually get this. Now, obviously the CWA or CMA or whatever you guys want to call them, they are still not for this. And I don't think they're going to change their stance on it for a couple of minutes. They're probably going to wait to the FTC. I don't know anything about this. I would suggest you go look at Hogue Law. I'm only going off of, the perspective of someone that doesn't know much about this, just looking at exactly how this is being done. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen next. Now, since the EU has approved it, and all the other entities, I think they probably have like 8 out of 15 or something like that. They have the majority of them. I'm sure the biggest ones that they need is the CMA and the FTC. It's the American one, and I think it's the Britain one. I don't know which ones the CMA are over. So when you have the EU, which is one of the bigger ones, and you get the FTC on your side, which we know how America is, you can get your way if you pay enough money and enough popular people. It's all about politics when it comes to America. I think that there's a good chance that they'll be able to pass it and kind of strong on the CMA into doing it. It's like, look, you're potentially losing jobs in that area. Microsoft might actually threat to leave that area in terms. I know a lot of their financial stuff is in that area. So that's going to be very curious to how they handle that since the EU has approved the deal. Because since the EU approved it, and the FTC is probably going to approve it after they come to a middle ground on certain things. You had places like, Egypt approve it. The more of these companies approve this deal, and the less it's going to look bad on Xbox and Microsoft. It's going to look more bad on the companies that don't, like the CMA. I think that's Microsoft's, ace in the hole. I do think that as of right now, I'd say it's a 50-50. Now that the EU has approved, it's all on the FTC. If the FTC ultimately goes to sue, or I think they already did that, but if they ultimately go and block the deal because Microsoft's fighting them in court right now, if they lose that, it's over. It's a wrap. But I think there's a good chance Microsoft comes out on top in America. I think the lawyers that they're working with definitely are aware of how some of these procedures are, and I don't think that they would go into that if they couldn't even win their home continent, their home country, which is America. So I think that one is less of a wild card to me. Me personally, I think they're going to get that one. But when it comes to the CMA, I have no clue what's going to happen on that. Maybe Microsoft would just be like, all right, we won't sell Bethesda and Activision games in your region. And, at the end of the day, who's that hurt? That hurts the consumer. I'm wondering if that does happen. Is there going to be repercussions in terms of like a consumer base? Is people going to just start how we as Americans call our senators, call our House of Representatives. We hit up Congress for a lot of stuff, especially with an outlet like TikTok, Shorts, where we can communicate with people on a vast scale and get stuff like that done. I'm curious if that happens over there, where it's like if the CMA is about to lose Overwatch, their consumers going to lose games like Overwatch, Call of Duty, WoW, because that's Blizzard. I'm pretty sure that's Blizzard. And not to mention, Hearthstone. These are huge entity titles. Diablo. I'm curious if everyone approves it but the CMA, and I want to know if the CMA are going to go toe-to-toe with them, if they're going to continue this, and I wouldn't say unrealistic expectations when it comes to the cloud disputing market. I understand where people's concerns are. I think they do have grounds to stand on in terms of the future of cloud disputing, cloud gaming. And I also feel like having something like Call of Duty in Microsoft's corner is an extreme advantage, and it will probably make it really hard to compete if something like that were to happen. I think that's the reason the CMA is being real extra about it. But I don't think that the cloud gaming portion is big enough to really valid that it can't compete, because for the most part it seems like there's very few people even trying to compete. Google left it. We don't know exactly what Amazon's going to do with Luna, but Microsoft's one of the only people in the ballgame that's actually putting a lot of energy behind it. And the funny thing is, I don't even think Microsoft wants it for Call of Duty or cloud. I think they mainly want it for mobile. They want that Xbox numbers. They want that engagement on the mobile platforms. I don't know what to degree, but it's going to be interesting what happens. If I were a betting man, I would say in the next 3 to 6 months, I'm going to say this deal is probably going to pass. I think they're going to use their ability to lobbyists in America to get the FTC on their side. And I think they're going to use the fact that it's been passed on the FTC and the EU and a lot of the other big entities in the industry, or in the country in general, the world. And they're going to use them to be able to strong arm the CMA into submitting. Now, does that mean that there's not going to be, some form of consolidations? Probably. It probably will. I would say Microsoft at this point, the only thing I can't see them doing is like offering some kind of, we're not going to put it on Game Pass and we're not going to have like creative control over our product in the future past that 10-year mark. And I think that's valid. If you're going to spend $70 billion, it's kind of weird that people are going to tell you what to do with that product in the first place. But anyway, put in the comment section below, do you guys think this thing's going to go through, man? I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' opinion. I think there's about a 50-50 chance, but if I were leaning a little bit more one to the left, I would say 60-40. I would say in the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to see a lot of info when it comes to this. Now with the EU approving it, it gives Microsoft a lot more leverage to go back to these other entities and negotiate, because a big entity like the European Commission has approved this deal. And I think it's going to make those other companies look bad. Well, countries look bad. But anyway, put in the comment section below what you guys think. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.